Oh, goodness. Oh, I thought I had it all the way down.
Well, good morning, Ms. Gomez. Thank you for meeting with me today. Um, Today we're going to go over the observation, um, and we're going to be focusing on glows and grows. You know, I always love to focus on those glows, and since this is our initial observation, I won't be giving you any ratings at this time. This piece I'm going to use as a coaching piece. You know that in our appraisal system we have coaching, and then we have that observation and appraising, but at this time we're just going to use it as coaching, and maybe determine some areas that you might want to explore. Okay? Do you have any questions? Okay. So I already, shared my notes with you, and as you reflected on your notes, are there, what are some of the strengths that you notice in your class?
Actually, what I really liked at the end was the end product. The students being able to feel the different textures and to be able to take ownership in what they did.
Okay, so the way, basically what I'm hearing is the way that you walk them through to discovering those textures. Okay, all right. Um, One of the things that I notice as a glow is that you're very structured, and so when they moved from the table to the carpet, and you said uno prepárate, dos levántate, tres suavecito a la carpeta, those are very structured procedures that they seem to be following every day. Is that what they do all the time?
Yes, I teach them at the beginning to when I say one get ready or uno prepárate in Spanish, that they put their things away, they clear up, and they're ready to transition. And I won't start the next step until everybody is ready. Two stand, they know they stand, and they put their hands behind their back. And then three, um, they get up and they move. I try to just use different adjectives depending on what we're learning. And I'll put walk like a robot, jump to your seats, dance, leap, things like that, um, so that it could be fun to have that little transition.
I noticed that you said walk like a robot when they were sitting on the carpet, and then they started moving, and they were just sort of mimicking a robot. So that was a very easy transition for them, and it didn't seem like everybody was just running to their seats again. So yeah, they seem to understand. So you do have those structures in place, and they're very evident when I came in. Another thing that you did was the switching from Clifford to Cookie Monster, which actually you call them Elmo, right? You call him Elmo, not Cookie Monster. Um, so you put one away and you went into the other guy, and you showed him up there. Um, why do you do that?
I want them to know that it's time to switch languages, and and for many years when I was working with bilingual students, they didn't feel comfortable trying to speak. I mean, trying to speak and just with the English language. It was many English language learners. So when I transitioned, I just kept that same thing going where I say English, yes we can, making them feel comfortable, and then I say English if we try. So um, I always go over, and even with I think I mentioned it too with the drawing, that we just have to try. We might not be perfect at something, but we have to try. So they repeated. I know here we have a mixture, since it's dual language, a mixture of students that are really comfortable with English and Spanish, but I still kept it going because there are quite a few that don't feel comfortable still with English. So it just makes everybody feel more confident. And I like that we make sure that we put away the Spanish language and we're ready to take out the English language. And I think students feel excited. Like they'll make little comments like, "Oh, Clifford's gonna take a nap," and now.
Yeah, I noticed that they say good night,
Yeah.
night night. So they were saying definitely bye to that guy.
So they were
Mhm.
ready for the language to come. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me see what else I have in my notes over here. Well, oh, when you said I'm going to do a rug check, I'm just I guess a little pleasantly surprised with the way you have all your structure. You said I'm going to do a rug check, and right away everybody sort of straightened up and they got into their little squares and everything. So it's evident that you have a very structured class. They know exactly what the expectations are.
Yes, and these are kindergartners, so their attention span is really short. So I have to and I have to continuously remind them and give them points. I just started with Dojo, so the great thing about Dojo is that you can give them individual points. I grouped them as tables and I grouped them as color in the line of the rug. So I could say, okay, I love the way I love the way the red row is quietly following instructions, and give them a point right there and then. Parents also have access to that, so when they came to open house, I told them about that, and so they can see how their children are getting points or getting points taken away from the different activities that we do, or whatever it is that I give them a point for. It says being on task. Most of the time that's what I give for. I rarely take away, but I try to give plenty. When they reach a certain point, they come to either eat lunch with the teacher or things like that. But that's what I feel has always worked for me, just making sure that the expectations are set high and making sure that I don't continue if I see students that are either not on task or start getting fidgety, making sure that I know that something's going on. Let me make sure to help you refocus, and I have to redirect. I have two students that is extremely hard to get their attention, so I have to continuously either redirect them to follow the instructions, to just straighten up, and also have to do things that are engaging, because that's what they like.
Okay. So you said when you group them by color or table. So with those two students that you have, would they make their table lose points?
I have to constantly remind them when I say, and I try never to say I don't like. I always say I love the way.
So
I love
positive
the
appraisal. Okay.
I love the way table 4 is sitting quietly, ready to learn. When I see that a child, especially those two in particular, are not, for example, if this particular child is not ready, I will say something like, let's just say John Doe, right? John, let's get ready so that your table can get a point too. Or we're waiting for John. We're waiting for John to be ready so that they can get a point too. And that will only just be a couple times before they understand that they're held accountable for their table. Another thing that I do a lot that really, really works is that students, I talk to them about a soccer game, because most of these students that we have very high Hispanic rate know about soccer.
Yeah.
So I tell them we are a team, and just like in soccer, if there's one person, si le meten el gol.
If you score.
Yes, if you score.
Oh.
Or well, no.
Or if they score, if somebody scores,
and we lose as a team. If we win as a team. And I do a lot of examples about that, so they can understand that we're a team,
Mhm.
and that if you are not participating, or if you are not following the instructions, you're gonna lose. You're gonna make your team lose.
Okay.
So I do that at the beginning. I continue to practice it. I demonstrate it, and so that they can understand that we're a team,
Mhm.
and that they need to be able to work as a team, and that really helps the
That's
kindergarten.
you said several things. You said you have high expectations for them.
Exactly.
You hold them accountable, and you hold each of them as a group accountable for their team. So definitely structures are set in place in this classroom. Let's move on to the next part, and um, we'll go, let me just go by part. So one of the things that you said, okay, boys and girls, we're going to be talking about the five senses. Who remember those five senses? So you connected the activity that you were going to do with what was coming up. You really gave them that um, uh, background. And I guess you had been doing five senses for a while, right?
We have been doing five senses for 1 week, and we always start with just mentioning or learning about all the five senses, and learning the actual five senses, and then we go in depth every to every sense. We did the sense of taste, and we brought different kinds of things that they could taste,
Mhm.
for the sour, the salty, and all that. So this was going to be for the sense of touch.
Mhm. Okay.
So I always just remind them of the different senses, because it's hard for them to get the vocabulary. Um, for example, they'll say mouth when it's taste, or ear when it's sense of hearing. So I want them to use the vocabulary.
Mhm. Well, I noticed when you were introducing, or when you were sort of bringing that background knowledge, you were probing them to tell you the five senses, and then you said, Miguel, can you say here, or can you say here, Miguel? Um, why him specifically? Because everybody was sort of talking and they're sharing out. So why specifically did you choose him to repeat that?
I had noticed that he would say ear instead of hear.
Okay.
And what I did is I showed him, this was a day before, or when we did five senses before this lesson, that here has ear in it. So I told him to remember, and that's why I was trying to make him remember here, like, what we had learned before.
Mhm.
And this is a child that needs from he needs to see that I'm paying attention to him.
Okay.
He needs to feel comfortable, because he will start getting fidgety, and so I have to constantly make sure that I approach him,
Mhm.
or else I will lose him.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that's why he's at the front. He's with me, and that's why I said here, because we had a discussion before that.
You had a discussion with him, or with
And
the
he
whole
was
class?
saying,
I'm sorry.
I mean, with the entire class,
Okay.
in the previous lesson, he had said ear, and that's why I said hear, like hearing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. And then you went on to you told your students, um, that you were going to go in depth with touch, and then you said I students, I forgot something. When we were writing English, we have to put a what? And student said a dot. And you said if it's blue, it's
English.
English. And so they answer. If it's red, it's Spanish.
Because it's a dual language classroom, we were told we either write in red and blue,
Mhm.
or we could put the dot. I chose to put the dot because we do a lot of anchor charts, and I just feel that color, especially for kindergarten, is very important. So we do that. Usually, that's the first thing I do.
Mhm.
And that particular lesson, I had forgotten to do the dot. I think I had just started writing something. So I said, I had to make sure that I go back and tell them. And then they know, by now they know that the English is a blue and the red is a Spanish.
Okay.
So have to make sure to mention that.
I thought it was very powerful that you said, "Oh, I forgot." So you're making them very knowledgeable
Yes.
that we teachers are human too, and
Yes.
maybe we'll forget.
And I do that a lot. There will be times, like I know I had a brain freeze that lesson for the word guess.
Okay.
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was that was. I had another observation, a CLI observation, and I didn't. I couldn't. I knew it was adivinar,
But you
we
couldn't
were-
transfer it to English.
well, I just didn't want to use adivinar, and it was for prediction.
Okay.
And I thought, and I told them, you know what, boys and girls, what do we do when we have, when we can't remember? And that's when we say connect, because I teach them about the connection with self to text, you know, all those connections. So a lot of times what I tell my students, if you can't remember something, remember the song that I taught you. And for example, I'll give you a quick example. We have a song that's El año tiene cuatro estaciones. And then so when I tell them how many seasons are there in the year, they'll say, when they don't remember, I say, remember the song. So they automatically say, "Año tiene cuatro o siete días," you know, and then and then they'll sing the song and they'll remember. And I say, you see, you can use that. You can go back to that. So here, well, with the other lesson, and I think, no, not this one, but just letting you know that sometimes my point was that we have to problem solve. So I teach them that even I, as a teacher, sometimes have to problem solve to get to the answer or to, you know, to solve my problem. So there will be times when I tell them, if I have something in mind and I can't remember, I said the great thing about this is that we're bilingual, and you know we can problem solve, and what can we do? And they will tell me. You know, there's a student that will be, Google it.
Okay.
And so we Google it, we translate, and right there I'm solving the problem. And they see, oh, like for that particular word, I said, okay, so I Googled it. The little boy said Google it, and I Googled it, and they said, yes, it's adivinanza. Even though I had already done it before, but I just wanted to make sure, and I didn't feel really comfortable with that word, but that's a word. That's what it was. And so, so that's another thing that I do. I think I mentioned it in this lesson where I said, we cannot be, I'm not a great artist, but I try.
You did.
Because there will be children that will be stuck. They will be saying, but I can't write it. And that's why I do a lot of drawing, teaching them how to draw with figures, because that's important to them at this stage. And if I don't make them feel comfortable, this is, if I, even though I have high expectations, I don't expect things to be perfect. You know, I expect them to try their best.
Okay.
And this is what I do. You know, I tell them I might not be perfect, but I'm trying my best. You know, and with constantly reminding them that I'm here, and I think I mentioned it too in this, because I mention it every day at all times. I'm here to help you, and if you can do it, don't worry, don't stress.
Yeah,
you
did mention, and that's one thing. So you're basically scaffolding for them. You know, through you're showing them how to problem solve, and then you mentioned with one of your kiddos. Let me go back to my notes. That was a little bit afterwards. Sergio, is it Sergio? Step touch. Oh yes, you said. Boys and girls, you went through the whole process of showing them the different items, and they were touching and so on and so forth, and you introduced the vocabulary rough, and you have it up there still, rough, soft, hard, and bumpy. Oh boy.
Let me get up and move around.
But thank you. So you introduced all that vocabulary, and then you said that all of this, you know, how something feels is called texture. And then when you called on Sergio, you said, what did we say that is called? Sergio said, no, you said, today we're learning about the different, and Sergio said, the way we touch. And you said, but what did we say it was called? And he just looked at you like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then you said, I don't think you understood my question. Let me repeat it. But you didn't repeat it, you rephrased it. So you're scaffolding. Today we learned the things that feel soft, rough, and it is called texture. So what did we learn? And the student still didn't answer. And then you said, it's okay, we're going to help Sergio. So that's a nice way to let him know you're in a safe environment. It's okay if you don't understand at this point. So they all helped Sergio.
And I think Miguel was the one that said, text her.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
you see, this is a child that I tell you, I have to constantly redirect.
Mm-hmm.
If he's engaged, he's gonna learn.
Of
I mean, and he's
course.
he's gonna pay attention, but if I don't, have him with me, if I don't.
Maybe give him the attention that he needs.
Then
Mhm.
he will misbehave because,
Mhm.
you know, he will start fidgeting and all that.
Mhm.
So, he was the one that said it, and I love that he says it because he just makes him feel more confident.
Okay, so Miguel definitely, I guess, was acknowledged at that point. But then you went on, and I'm wondering, how could you have supported Sergio a little better at that point?
You know, when that happened, I was questioning myself in my mind. Because I don't know if you noticed that I didn't introduce, we're gonna learn about textures before I introduced the words before.
Mhm.
So I was not doubting myself, but thinking, was this a good idea to first introduce the different textures like rough, soft? But when I planned it, I thought, if I go straight to textures, they might block me because they don't know what it is. So with kindergarten, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna go with the different textures and then say, this is what we just learned is what the bigger meaning, this is, the rough, the soft, the smooth, that is called textures. And it's when we, the way.
So it's through discovery. You did it through discovery. But I'm specifically talking about Sergio because obviously when you question him, he looked at you like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Right? And then he waited for his friend's help, which he got from Miguel. And then you went on.
What could I have done? Maybe give him a little bit more time. I would send him, I don't know if that would have ever happened to where he would remember. And some of these students don't know how to read.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can look at the chart and say, oh, that's a word. They don't know how
Yeah,
to
they're
read.
learning. They're kinder.
So, that's
Okay.
something to think about,
Mhm.
what I needed to do.
Well, I'm thinking more in the sense of maybe not giving him time, but his friend gave him the answer, but maybe you could have gone back and sort of reinforced. So what is it called? That's what I mean. Like, okay, so now he knows, but how do you know he knows? He never really voiced it, right?
Exactly.
So his friends did help him, but
Another thing that
maybe a little follow-up question or something.
Exactly. Another thing that I thought about, that I think about too, is there are students who will, I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming that there's also students that will maybe not try hard enough because they know friends will help them. So as the time progresses, we're just in September, but as the time progresses, I make sure that I try to make sure that they either answer or that they understand or, you know, wean them out of we're gonna help you. I mean, we're always gonna help them, but in that sense, like in that situation, I would probably have waited a little longer and tell them that maybe later on in the months they can read, and then tell them to look at the anchor chart. But that's something I always I have to be very careful with.
Yeah.
You know, making sure that they don't just wait until it's kind of like the translation, and if we don't translate in dual language because of that, because they will wait. There will be students that will wait.
I know, I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, I'll just wait until the teacher reads it in Spanish or says it in Spanish.
Mhm.
So when I have that going on with the language, like I have a student that just came from Monterrey and doesn't speak any English. She will never hear me talk in Spanish during English time, but she has a buddy, and whenever I need for her help, well, I would tell the buddy, can you please explain to her what I just said, and the buddy will help her. But I don't want them to know that I'm gonna just translate everything that I just said. It's basically the same thing with the help. you know, I want them to know that they're secure, that they're safe, that I'm gonna help them, but only so much.
To a
or-
certain point. No, and I think, part of our learning in general, human beings, we learn through socializing, because learning should be a social process. We learn from each other. So I don't think that, at this point, especially with our kindergartners, that you need to move away from that. Just sort of follow up and make sure that he got it, because you could tell me something, at a certain point, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. How do you know? It's up here, but it never came out. I never wrote about it. So, maybe, I don't know, if maybe following up with an activity, something like that. Um, then you went on, once you went through everything and they understood what texture was, uh, you connected their learning to a song, and you put it right on the smart board, where they were actually singing and dancing, and I just wanted to get in on the fun with them. You know that I love being here. So, um, just in I guess connecting technology, because we are 21st century. We have 21st century kiddos. Introducing technology or using technology to enhance your instruction, um, was definitely a positive, for those kiddos. But I noticed that there were two sitting right up here. Why were they sitting? I'm not sure if they didn't like it, or.
They usually when we do songs, I want them to move, so I let them stand, and they thought that we were gonna sit. There's some particular songs in math where we sit, because they have to use their hands, because we're pretending to write the numbers and things like that.
Okay.
And so I think they were unsure if, that's why I told them like this, that they needed to stand.
Yeah, you did. You used the
So,
sign.
so I think they were just confused.
Oh, okay.
I think they were just confused. And I have a student that doesn't, very shy, and when we do Go Noodle, or we do different brain breaks,
Mhm.
which involves movement, she won't move. She'll just freeze. But I think that's just her personality. I don't know if you saw that. That was toward the end of the row. But I think with that, because I know who those two students were, I think they were just like, do we stand, do we sit? So I think that I should have, I need to come up with something that says, stand or sit.
Mhm.
And I mean, I do the signs,
Mhm.
but I think, I didn't, I wasn't clear. I didn't mention it in this particular, lesson. And so I think that was a confusion, so I just did the sign so they could do it. I don't remember right now if they did or they didn't, if they did, if they did.
No, I think they just sat there. No, actually, they sat there the whole time. But they did look at everybody, and they were sort of singing, but they just sat there. All right, and then you went on, to doing their independent practice, and you did their, the little hand, and you modeled how to cut, and then I noticed that you put it on the projector, because they're having sort of a difficult time, but you.
When it's complicated, like the hand going in and out and like that, it takes a lot of time. That's not the purpose of the lesson. So I told them to cut, but you'll have the perfectionists that want to do it, and many of them did it afterwards, which was fine. But that was why I just told them, just go straight, don't have to cut on the fingers. But yes, there's some students that didn't attend pre-K, and those students haven't been exposed to cutting, and this is kindergarten. Even though they didn't attend, we have to move on, and I just have to do small groups with the students that can't cut. I think they're getting better. So we wanted to move along.
Yeah, and when you model, at least they were looking at you and they were sort of trying to imitate. So you did move them along, and it didn't take them way too long. So moving forward from everything that we've talked about, is there anything that you feel that we can grow from here? What are some things that maybe you want to put in place?
From this particular lesson? The maybe review, thinking, thinking a little more about whether, whether I should have introduced the word textures before or after. That has me thinking. I didn't want to scare him because that's a big word.
Definitely.
So that's something I'm gonna consider. With the objects that I showed them, I wanted to be things that were from around the classroom, but maybe for, bumpy, I really couldn't find anything, so I brought that, but bring something that is bumpier, so they could
Mhm.
really see the bumps. But like I said, I didn't feel like I had something here in the classroom that showed that, even though with the activity I did. So I felt comfortable when we did the activity, because they were able to feel it a lot more than with the actual objects that I showed them.
Okay.
And another thing that I considered that I would change, now that I'm thinking about it more, would be presenting the objects before the word, instead of the word before the objects.
Okay. All right, so just basically changing the lesson a little bit just to enhance it. One of the things that I noticed, and I went back to the curriculum documents, and it says ELA 16B, they talk about students in kinder speaking in complete sentences. And I know that you were giving them part of the sentence. You said, if it's red, it's, and they would say Spanish. I forgot, and they would say a dot. You said, if it's blue, it's English. So they would sort of complete your sentences but they themselves were not using sentences. So maybe, having them use those complete sentences when they talk to you, because I know that you're very intentional in making sure that they do speak in sentences. But here, when you were presenting, they were just giving you that one little word.
This was basically the introduction. I do a lot of that. I do it, and mostly in the turn and talk. When we do a turn and talk, and I don't think I did the one in this lesson. I think I had done that earlier in the morning with the other observation. I hold them accountable at the turn and talk with whatever their partner said.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've seen that, but I always say, they have to, I mean, since the beginning of the year, I taught them that they say, my partner said.
Oh, okay.
So they're not saying what they thought. They're telling me what their partner said. So it's a sentence stem that I have just, built, and they basically complete it, but they're using the entire sentence. And if they don't say it, I'll remind them. Mi compañero dijo que, and then they'll say it, right? We have to use a lot of sentences because students will just say the word like you said. But a lot of the things that we did in this lesson were new things.
Okay.
So it was hard. So let's say we do we're reviewing on the sense of touch or the sense, that probably it'd be, I would do a lot more of that. But it's something that I have to remind myself to input in all the lessons.
Okay. Well, then, to move forward, one of the things that maybe I'll come back and see, once I'll look at this. Because, like I said, I know that you're very intentional in the way you teach your kiddos. So, thank you again for meeting with me. Are there any concerns, questions? No? Okay.
Great suggestions, and I will definitely keep it in mind for next time.
All right, Ms. Thank you. And I will be meeting with you afterwards, just to, like I said, this is a coaching piece. It's going to go on the tool with all the notes that I just took. And if you have any questions, just